Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
All right, good morning. Thank you very much once again for starting your day with us on Western Spring Television this morning. The program is Morning Spring, where we bring it to you as it is. We help you start your day with insightful newspaper analysis, engaging interview segment, and of course, what's trending. Here we talk to you about issues making the rounds in the polity and how they affect you as a Nigerian or a person living in Nigeria. And it's Thursday, the 29th of December, 2022, 2 days. 3 days before the new year. I hope you've begun writing down your new year resolutions and of course the people and things that you want to cut off as the year ends and another one begins. My name is Emmanuel Ujadegele this morning, and we'll be on the show together making sense of some of the issues that are heating up the socio-political and socio-economic sphere of Nigeria. We have for you newspapers this morning, and we're going to talk about those papers. I have an analyst in the house who will help us make sense of some of these issues. You get to meet the analyst when we come back from this short break and bring you the papers. All right, thank you for staying with us. Welcome back to the program, Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Remember that we're reaching you live from Star Times Channel 190 DTT. And of course, you can follow all of our content on our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram at Western Spring Television, on Twitter at WSTV_NG, and on YouTube, it's still Western Spring Television. Remember to subscribe to our channel when you get there. Now, this morning, I have with me a familiar face, someone who has always helped us make sense of some of the stories, a socio-political analyst, a human rights activist, and a man of many parts, Comrade Ayo Ologun. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, so let us start here in Osogbo. Did you see any few cues this morning?
Yes, like we predicted a few days ago, the people are now beginning to go back to work. And this morning, along the ring road, it was a long queue of the two major stations that are on that part. And I asked myself, how much of human power, human resources we waste as a nation? I'm sure the long queue I made, the people will have been there since as early as 5 a.m., 6 a.m. No good sleep. They will be spending better part of their money there. And then what do you expect? Human power, human resources, daily wasted, all in the name of scarcity.
We hope that is tackled. You know, we did say it before the Christmas that it would be bleak and a little bit dire for Nigerians who would have to spend Christmas. Some of them on the road, some of them looking for fuel.
Some can even return back to their bases because there's no fuel to take them back. Those that came for Christmas festivities.
And then we'll also look at the attendant exorbitant price of transport. Well, that's what it is this morning. There have been so many issues, so many promises by the NNPC and the Nigerian government. And at some point, even the DSS had to come in and issue an ultimatum. So if you don't provide fuel in the next 48 hours, we'll do something. No, but
that was an aberration anyway.
All of those things, yes, it was an aberration. And all of those things did not come to pass. And then there was also the 34 days sufficiency claim by NNPC.
A ruse as it's always been.
Well, a ruse as there's always been. So we'll begin with the papers this morning. The Punch newspaper is where we start off our discussion for you. The Punch newspaper has as its banner headline this morning, PDP threatens sanctions as G5 governors meet Tinubu in UK. APC presidential candidate intensifies lobby. Obi banks on Obasanjo backing. It is too late to go back to Atiku. Reconciliation failed, says source. Governors on vacation. They risk being disciplined for anti-party activities. Interesting headline and interesting writers there.
It's almost a predictable one for those who have been keen watchers of the activities of the G5 and, of course, their involvement in the Atiku campaign. One would have clearly seen that, look, it's almost a foreclosed issue that these 5 governors are not going to work with Atiku. But then, one thing that is certain, just like we also said on this show a couple of days ago, is I don't see the 5 of them towing the same line. And that's the fact. I see the possibility of maybe 3 going for Tinubu, another 2 going for Obi, or 3 for Obi, 2 for Tinubu, as the case may be. But for Tinubu, that we all know, as a master strategist and a master lobbyist, we might end up having it 4-1, as the case may be. But that any of them would eventually go back to the PDP to work for Atiku, I think that's almost a foreclosed matter. It's almost a foreclosed one.
Well, yeah, there is a writer there about being too late to go back to Atiku. But the PDP now is threatening to sanction these governors. It's
the right thing to do. Political parties as a disciplinary committee, they have the way they do their thing. So if you're a member of a political party, if you sought and won election on the banner of a political party, and for reasons best known to them, they decide to work against that same party in the presidential election, they're going to have two issues. And one of it is what we're already seeing in Rivers. There's no way, except Wike, for example, leaves the party. How do you go back to your state and tell people to vote for the PDP from councillorship up to the governorship, and then at the presidential election, tell them to vote something else? And then if that be the case, the party, the PDP, has the right to put them where they belong to sanction them. And the way it's going to likely be, it's not even going to be sanctioned. It's going to be likely expelling them from the party. And of course, once they're expelled from the party, a political office holder cannot afford to be partyless, so to say. So if they eventually expelled from the party, they will find their route in whatever party or whatever candidate they eventually decide to support. That is going to be the reality, because lessons has been learned from political parties from 2015. We saw people in a particular political party working for another presidential candidate of another party. And I think political parties have learned their lesson that, look, you are either with us or not with us. You cannot be within, you cannot be with us and be rendering help to with us. So they are likely going to be expelled from the PDP, and then they find their way back to the party of choice.
Well, it will be interesting to see where Governor Osun Wike of Rivers ends in the case of expulsion. I'd like to see how he would end up, if he would be in the APC, where he has constantly had face-offs with some of the chieftains. Well, it's politics anyway. Yes.
Politicians are shameless, so to say.
Yes. They're always crisscrossing and cross-carpeting. Now, below that story, you can see pictures of a tragedy there, the Calabar Carnival. Calabar dead, see Cross River PDP lampoons Ayade for going ahead with the carnival. As on page 3, seven or about people died in that carnival after a lot of stampede and all of that. But the issue now is it with the carnival or the security provided or the overcrowdedness of the place? For
me, from the story that I read, is none of such. Look, calamities do not choose a date, and it does not choose venue. It happens when it will happen. What happened in that case were motorbike riders that were rammed into by a vehicle, and I think about 7 of them were crushed to death and several others were wounded. This is one thing that nobody has control over. But I think the PDP were wrong in saying that Governor Ayade didn't went ahead with the carnival, because I've read the statement, I've listened to him on TV, where he asked that the carnival be put on hold. So I think maybe they rushed to the media to give that opinion before the governor of that state made an official position known in terms of the carnival. But then, just like nobody prays for evil, but when evil lurks, nothing stops it from happening. And this is one of such. We just pray for the reports of the souls of the people that died, and hope that better caution will be taken in subsequent editions. Because if the areas by which the motorcade, the motorcycle cade was happening had been cordoned off from the possibility of a vehicle passing the same road or ramming into them, this could have been avoidable.
Yes, and it's high time we stop politicizing some of these issues. When lives are lost, it's not just about figures. It's not just about 16 people died. It's not 16 ants. They are people, they're human beings. We should respect their lives and respect the moment. At the bottom strip of the Punch newspaper this morning, Deserter trained 1,000 IPOB fighters killed Gulag. That's coming from the police. Is on page 5 of that story. Reps demands justice for lawyer slain by policeman. Car explosion kills 7 Lagos residents heading for revival. Before we move up to above the nameplate, that's a very disturbing report from the police.
It's a very disturbing one. I think it is one of the issues that has been in the front burner. I listened to your analysis yesterday, and I share the same position with him. The problem, because if you look at that story, it is deserters from the Nigerian police, people that deserted the police or were suspended for one thing or the other. And we've often heard that a lot of armed robbers, a lot of kidnappers that we see around are deserters from most of the forces, Nigerian Army, Nigerian Air Force, and what have you. And this speaks to the recruitment process. We cannot overflog this issue. the police force and, of course, all other military units should be more resilient in the process by which they choose who makes it to the force. You cannot afford to pick the worst of us in the society into the police force and expect anything good. Most of these people you see that turns out to be the bad gang in the police, their recruitment process was faulty. Their names were either submitted by senators, by rep members, by their obas in their villages, or by the governors of the state, and then they enter the police force without passion for it. Those are the ones that turn out to be wrong. So when eventually something happens and they are dismissed from the police force because they've been used to the life of gun running, they find their way back into crime. And in this case now, this report says that the police deserters trained 1,000. Of course, somebody you've trained in the army of gun is going back to train enemy of the state. 1,000 of them. 1,000
non-state actors that are bearing arms.
Is enough to destroy a nation. And it's unfortunate that such is coming from the deserters of the police force, which speaks to the recruitment process, which needs to be taken more seriously and made more rigid, that we don't have the worst of us guiding the rest of us.
Yeah, I like that particular line. We don't have the worst of us guiding the rest of us. We had issues with the police. We've had issues with even the soldiers. There were allegations about what happened in southern Kaduna. Some of the rounds recovered from, the scene of the killings were said to be from the military, and that some of the assailants came in military uniform. And then you begin to wonder, did they assault military officers, overpower them, and they took their accoutrement, or were they giving? These are questions. And then now you see people deserting and going ahead to train enemies of the state. It's a very scary situation for people in that region and for Nigeria at large, because insecurity is not region bound. Yeah. It's a national issue now. Above the nameplate of the Punch newspaper this morning, Defense Health gets lion's share. National Assembly passes 21.8 trillion naira budget. Senate rejects Buhari to restructure 22 trillion naira CBN loan. And NLC gives Buhari conditions for new minimum wage. As on page 19 of the Punch newspaper this morning, Uzodinma mourns as Ohaneze leader dies. Comrade Dologun, before this budget was passed, there were issues. The Senate president said there were lots of errors in that budget, and now it's been passed, and Defense Health getting lion's share.
It's expected that, of course, though an aberration, but it's expected in the case of Nigeria that the defense is getting the lion's share of our budget for the year 2023, and that is because of the matter of insurgency that we've have to deal with in the last 12, 15 years. But of course, if that had not been the case, if there's any sector that's supposed to be taking the lion's share of any nation's budget, apart from health, it's supposed to be education. And unfortunately, we have not learned, because we just passed through a phase whereby ASU went on strike for 8 months. And I doubt if majority of their demands were captured in the 2023 budget. That which means that if some of the demands that made the youth stay at home for 8 months were not captured in the 2023 budget, we are being set up for another ASU strike in 2023. Because those demands will not just fizzle away. They are there. They are a reality. One would have expected that the new budget should have captured a lot of their demands, but obviously it's not, because if it had been, we will be having education as one of the front burners of the units that carries the highest of the budget. But in this case, it is defense and in the unfortunate part of it, this defense we are talking about, we've always had issues with the budget of the defense. With the budget of the military in Nigeria. They will tell you this is one agency of government that cannot be probed. And then the next thing you begin to hear is 5 billion, 10 billion, ammunition fund being misappropriated and what have you. We cannot continue to have an irresponsible organ of government in the case of defense, the Nigerian Army, Nigerian police and the likes. There's no law that says that these organizations cannot be audited. There's a need to put a forensic audit in place to find out how the money allocated to this aspect of our nation has been expended. We cannot continue to throw money to some people who eventually are saboteurs to us. So there's a need for a forensic audit in the last 10, 15 years or thereabout to actually ascertain the money you've been given over time, how has it been expended and who is culpable, so that at least we will know how we've spent money in the past to know how much we need to continue to give them in the future, so that we don't end up putting the rest of the people in the purse of a few.
Well, that's some very interesting analysis there. And so there are questions arising from that conversation that the government needs to answer. What's happening to education? When will we learn that there are millions of children out of school. There are millions, hundreds of thousands of schools that are in shambles. Schools in the hinterland. Who needs this money? We need to restructure the educational system. And if we had an ideal society in the first place, security, defense, like he said, may not necessarily need to have lion's share. We need to bolster our health facilities too. The primary healthcare centers are really bad. The general hospitals are bad. It's so bad that even the politicians themselves go on medical tourism. And so the question is, what's happening to education, and why do we have such little funding compared to other agencies of government, including the National Assembly, getting billions of naira in allocation? But that's it on the Punch newspaper this morning. We'll move on to the Daily Trust newspaper. The Daily Trust newspaper, Thursday, December 29th, 2022, has at its banner headline, after selling 649 vehicles, EFCC auctions 160 houses, lands worth billions of naira. Desiani, ex-NIA DG's houses, others up for grabs. Government agencies, others to enjoy right of first refusal. Experts commend decision, advocates due process. Will announce revenue from sales soon, says spokesman of the EFCC. Comrade, how many houses do you want to buy this time?
It is unfortunate that this further shows how unserious we are as a people. Because when I saw that story, I shook my head. The reason being this: look, on a yearly basis, money is being allocated for construction of offices, for construction of residential apartments for office holders, political office holders, and even civil servants. That is what we see in Nigeria, which is an aberration. I can tell you for a fact that a senator or a governor in the United States does not have an official residence. Nobody begs you to come and serve. The only person that's entitled to official residence in that part of the world is the Chief Justice of the country, because they believe that it needs concentration to be able to do justice to the people. But here, year in, year out, we allocate money for construction of government houses, for construction of offices, and what have you. So for no reason should the EFCC be auctioning these 160 houses. If there is anything, it's the second right that government agencies order to enjoy right of first refusal. There should even be no sales to individuals in the first place, because the value of those buildings, as of now, will not be the value at which it will be sold to the people to be sold for. They have a way of doing it. They will be auctioning a vehicle of about 10 million naira. They will ask to go and bring 300,000. Go and bring 400,000, because they know it doesn't go beyond outside of their circle. So one will have expected that these 160 houses should automatically be forfeited to the government, and the government should decide what to do with it. Instead of building new houses for judges of the High Court, for judges of the Appeal Court, judges of the Supreme Court, you can convert some of these houses to the official residences. You can convert some of these buildings to offices of government in wherever the activity is, in Lagos or in Osogbo or in Calabar, wherever. That can become annexes of the federal secretariat in those cities instead of auctioning to individuals. So for me, I see it as trying to make some other people richer, because it does not go beyond their circle. It's not for you and I. I'm sure we cannot even afford the list of such houses.
Oh yeah, you see the picture there, very beautiful duplex. I think they call it a detached or semi-detached.
Semi-detached.
It's magnificent. I did see some of the vehicles that were sold to, that were auctioned to, and they were vehicles, really exotic cars. Yeah, exotic cars. I mean, imagine buying a car worth 10 million naira.
And the question is, if you look at the budget, there's provision for purchase of new vehicles for government officials in their convoy. By law, vehicles in the convoy are supposed to be changed every 5 years. So definitely there will be some changes in the convoy of the minister for this, minister of that, and what have you. So instead of auctioning those vehicles, why don't you look at how graded they are, how good they are, and have them refurbished, and then bring them back into use for government, and not giving it to individuals as giveaway prices.
Well, some persons still feel very bad that they didn't really get to participate in the auction, get at least 1 or 2 cars for themselves. I've always had teased Femi when he was still around about purchasing. He used to say, I don't have a car yet, and I said, okay, I could have bought like 1 or 2 or 3, and then run some business with it. But then it is what it is. Some of these cars, some of these houses could be repurposed. Truly, they could be repurposed. Also, there are many super eagles and sportsmen and women who have been promised residencies, houses, and cars, and they are yet to get it. So some of these things could actually work that way. They could be used to fulfill those promises. Away from the EFCC this morning, I'm fed up with my marriage. Ganduje's daughter tells court. And that's a family issue there. We hope they solve it. Reps to ASU, Gbajabiamila did not deceive you. National Assembly raises 2023 budget by 1.3 trillion naira. And at the bottom strip there, exploring 6th-century-old link between Kano and Algerian scholar Al-Maghili. Well, let's look at the Reps and ASU this time. There have been stories around that the Gbajabiamila, like they say in local parlance, carried the ASU handicap, something like that. As regards their promises he made, to solve their problems. Of course, if what we read in the news was anything to go by, it was by the intervention of Gbajabiamila as a speaker of the House of Rep that made it possible for ASU to return back to work. They counted on him. They counted on his promises. And of course, after his meeting with the president, they assumed that he must have spoken good for them and their promises made. Unfortunately, those promises are not being fulfilled. I can confirm to you because I have a lot of them as friends. 8 months' salary of while they were still at home has not been paid till now. And so if that be the case, that's a failure on the part of some of the promises. So ASU wanted to hold reps, the Speaker of the House of Representatives accountable. And there is the rep where Gbajabiamila is speaking and Speaker saying that, look, Mr. Speaker didn't deceive you. Yeah.
No, they didn't say he didn't make the promise. He didn't deceive you. Whatever he did was in the interest of the nation. He did whatever he did in national interest, but he could not have forced the president to fulfill those promises. But I think ASU should have learned a lesson. That look, like Yorubas will say, no shit. So if you are to enter into agreement or anybody to make promises to you going forward, put it in documents. Yes.
Well, we hope that these bodies learn their lessons, and we hope that the government also acts with sincerity of purpose. Yeah. It's one thing to make promises, it's one thing to fulfill this promise in detail. And above that banner headline this morning on the Daily Trust newspaper, fiscal activities that shaped Nigeria's economy in 2022. I believe that's a rundown of some of the events that happened in 2022. Let's even look at some of those things. What will be your highlight in the economy for this year? The highlight will be the change in our currency. Okay. And I was still joking yesterday. It's like picking a white paper and dipping it into paint. Because for me, the whole currency seems to be looks more quality, looks more beautiful than what we have now, and that is that is a result of not carrying the people along. I was not aware of a public what do you call it now? A public gathering where this issue of even the Minister of Finance was
said she was not aware. That means she did not even have access to the design before it was eventually printed. There should have been a public hearing. That's the word I was looking for, where some of these things should have been discussed. Call people in the banking sector, people in insurance, people that are involved in the economy of the country should have been called to a public discourse where some of these things should have been discussed and properly. Now we are having it thrown forth. In one of the reports, the Senate is telling them to shift the expiration of the old Naira note and the introduction of the new Naira note to June. And then you begin to look, is it about advices? You must have done your homework. You must have known why it has to terminate at a particular time and the other. Even the last one, the change in the limit had to be done by the influence of the House of Reps. So you begin to see that, look, all of these policies are not well thought out. And I think going forward, I pray that Nigeria does not have a CBN governor that will be as worse as an Emefiele. We hope that, one of the... that's another highlight. Yes,
that's my own personal highlight. The governor of the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, for the first time in history, I think we were having that discussion with Femi, I don't know, and he was saying that, I said that this is the most popular CBN governor Nigeria has ever had.
Popular for the bad things.
Very infamous, Infamous. The CBN had vehicles with his pictures printed, wanting to run for presidency. There's no way, like many persons have said, that he would have done that without dipping hands into some form. But that's another discussion. And that issue, if you had followed the Electoral Act, there was some argument, it's not an appointee, all of those things. I mean, it's just Nigeria is
the man has even gone out of circulation now. He's been looked for by the DSS, and nobody knows whether he's in Okebale.
So we have a central bank governor who is wanted.
He's wanted. He's unfortunate.
Nigeria is well, still on the Daily Trust, Nigerian refugees turned taxi drivers sacked from Niger Republic. A very sad one. People losing their source of income there. But I think if we had a good system here, some of this, I've not really seen white people in Nigeria driving Korokwes and Danfos. They have no reason to do that, do they?
Even if they do, of course, means of transportation differs across countries. So it's only here that we see it as Korokwe and Danfos because that's our reality. That's our own mode of transportation. But the thing for me is, in Nigeria, you call yourself a refugee, not in the UK, not in Canada, a refugee in the Niger Republic. In terms of wealth, in terms of economy, in terms of value, in terms of resources, what is Niger compared to Nigeria? They should be the one running here for economic emancipation. But when you see Nigerian seeking refuge in Niger, then you can say au revoir to Nigeria.
Well, a sad story coming out of the northern part of the country this morning. Bandits kill 14, abduct 31 in Sokoto, Katsina. That's a recurring discussion. It's been something that's been on the table for a while now. People getting kidnapped and getting nabbed. And before you speak to that, there's a rider just below the nameplate, still in captivity. 11 schoolgirls of FGC, Benin Yauri, 562 days now. One student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, 534 days now. And then a whole lot of other students, men and women, who are still in the den of their kidnappers.
It's unfortunate. But more unfortunate is that there are more of such that do not make it to the media.
To the news, yeah.
And that's the unfortunate thing. I was speaking with somebody from Osun government in Ondo State yesterday. About 5 villages have been deserted by the people because there's this forest that links Ondo State with Edo. Herdsmen coming from that forest sack the people. They will even announce to them that they should not go near their farms because they want to use it. Use it to do what? Feed cows. And if you attempt to confront them, the next thing is to slaughter them. That's in Ondo, but nobody's talking about it. Somewhere in Enugu, I was speaking with someone who lives in Lagos, but is from that village, and he was lamenting that his family way back in Enugu are demanding that they want to relocate to Lagos. And he's saying that, look, I do not even have the space to accommodate myself and my wife as much as I desire, let alone bringing family over. But they are telling, okay, will you prefer that we squat in your place or you lose us? Because just before the Christmas, about 20 people were killed in one of the villages in Enugu. That also didn't make it to the news. So as sad as this maiming and killings are, the saddest part of it is that is the much that we hear of. There are others that happen that do not make it to the news. And that shows the failure of government. The first responsibility of any government is to protect lives and property. So it doesn't matter what good the government does in any other aspect. If you fail in that aspect of protecting life and properties, you failed enough, because it's only people that are alive that talks about economy, that talks about good roads, that talk about good health and what have you. And so, for me, it's the failure of a nation that the nation is not capable of protecting its citizens, and it's quite unfortunate.
Well, quite unfortunate that the country cannot protect its citizens. Before we run away from the newspaper review this morning, let's take the Nation newspaper as our last paper very quickly. The Nation newspaper has its banner headline as 2023 Wike Makinde others for close support. Particle, I think we spoke about that already. Governors reject peace offer from South leaders. And beside that story, reps tackle ASU president over claim on Gbajabia Mila. At the bottom strip, 3 policemen, 11 others die in Ogun, Niger accident. Gunmen bomb police station. Above the banner headline, National Assembly raises budget 2023 by 1.32 trillion naira, 10.78 trillion naira deficit in 21.82 trillion naira bill. Senate stepped down Buhari's plans on 22.7 trillion naira CBN's loan. Ohanese President Bielsa dies at 80. Uzodinma, others mourn. And just below the nameplate, Expo Benedict situation critical, says Pope France. EFCC to auction 61 flats. Buhari's Oshibajo's speeches sons in Tinubu campaign. IG other suspension of killer ASP Vandi. Police need reform. New Naira note. Senate urges CBN to shift deadline to June 30. And those are the stories making the headlines on the Nation newspaper this morning. Well, that's so much we can take for you from the papers this morning. That's how far we can go. We need to bring our guests in to make sense of some issues. But before I let you go, let's at the political scene now. What was the highlight of your year this 2022?
I think the highlight will be the victory of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the APC presidential primary. Nobody saw it coming because
nobody saw it coming.
There were a lot of gang-ups, and for once and again, he dared everyone that predicted otherwise for him. And today is the presidential candidate of the APC, and I dare say that except other political parties begin to do the necessary, it's looking like it's going to lead us to a 3 going forward.
Well, we would like to leave it at that this morning on the show. Morning Spring is what you've been watching, and we had with us our social political analyst and a human rights activist, Comrade Ayo Ologun, who has helped us, make sense of some of these stories and give an insight into them. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We hope that your fuel doesn't run out and you have to queue up.
No, I trust it won't. It will get me home.
All right. When we come back from this break, we'll be talking about some issues happening in Osun State. Since the 27th of November, after the swearing in of Governor Ademola Adeleke, there have been so many issues, so many back and forth, so many orders, so many revelations, and we'll bring you those stories and some of the things happening when we come back from this break.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Bẹ́gùn ọba jáde mọ̀rìnwó lákọ́kọ́ rí ọwọ́ gẹ́gẹ́ ní síwájú ìjó ẹsẹ̀ katakata ní síwájú rìn bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ń gbúrò wa a tún ti dé náà nù ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò Owambe Unlimited pẹ̀lú èmi ọmọ yín olólùfẹ́ yín ọ̀rẹ́ yín Suliat tẹ́túmọ̀ sí Mọ́rẹ́níkejì ẹ lè pè mí ní Sùsù tó bá wẹ̀ lómi a sọ pé ìyálòdì àríyá gbogbo orúkọ tẹ́ ẹ bá pè mí kò sí èyí tí mi ò ní jẹ yín ẹ farabalẹ̀ kẹ́ ẹ máa gbádùn ètò Owambe Unlimited lórí ìkànnì Western Spring Television ní ìkànnì 190 ibẹ̀ ni Owambe Unlimited ń bọ̀ wá ẹ fàkùrẹ̀ tẹ̀dí kẹ́ ẹ máa gbádùn ètò àríyá wa.
Mo ń sọ fún yín pé ẹ máa wo Owambe Unlimited lórí Western Spring Television.
But welcome back to the program. Thank you for staying with us on Western Spring Television. It's still Morning Spring, where we bring it to you as it is. We give you stories making the rounds, try to make sense of them via our newspaper analyses, our interview segment, and of course, what's trending. My name is still Emmanuel Ujadegele, and you can follow this conversation on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Western Spring Television, and of course, on Twitter at WSTV_NG. And if you get to YouTube, look for our channel, Western Spring Television. Do well to subscribe when you go through the contents there. Now we'll come back to Osun State, where yesterday there was a release. There was a release from the state government. And before we bring in our guests, I'd like to show you what is in that release. I'd just like to read it out to you. $106 million Elisha water loan. Governor Adeleke suspends project consultant Tower Williams. 6 answers and expended 10 billion naira and $28 million without project progress. Direct consultants to hand over 70 million naira project vehicle. Launch full probe of the water. Now, there are some details emanating from that story, from that statement that was released by a spokesperson to the governor, Malam Olawale Rashid, saying a lot of things. The directive was sequel to the interim report of the State Assets Recovery Committee chaired by Dr. B.T. Salami. There are some of the stories making the rounds in Osun State this morning. So we go to speak with a PDP chieftain who is a former national deputy publicity spokesperson, publicity speaker for the People's Democratic Party, but he's a strong member of the party here in Osun State and also a close ally of Governor Ademola Adeleke. We have on the show joining us this morning Prince Diron Odeyemi, who will be speaking to some of these issues. Good morning, Prince Odeyemi. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Good morning, and thank you very much for bringing me on this morning. Compliments of the season.
Oh, wish you the very same. But before we talk about this particular issue, it's been 1 month now, over a month and 2 days since your friend and your party member became governor. How will you assess his administration so far?
Yeah, we give glory to God for how far we have gone. Even though, just like we said when we came on board, that the last administration did not hand over to us any paper to give us an inclination of what is in the office, both the asset and the liability. We did not receive a single paper to show us the direction of the state government. But when we got there, we noticed a lot of things, that they set a lot of banana peel on our ways in such a way that at least for the next 6 months, we should still be battling with them. But we give glory to God and for the kind of person the governor is, who are able to overcome all this, detect all the anomalies they are perpetrated in that government. Of course, we were only talking about the looting of utilities, of the cars, destruction of the government office and the government house. We're only talking about that on the very level, at the very level. But when we actually got into the account of the state government, we now realize that they have every reason to hide a lot of things by not giving us a proper handling over. Because if you look at it, the whole state finance is in a complete mess. In a complete mess that we have started unearthing a lot of corruption. But in line with the transparency and accountability promised the people of Osun State, the governor has been making it known to the people the indebtedness of the state and whatever anomalies they have committed. But by the special grace of God, we are moving on. We are learning fast, and by the time we clock 100 days, the people of Osun State will give kudos to this administration.
All right, so let's move on now to yesterday's issue. The governor suspended the project consultant for the Elisha water project, Engineer Tower Williams, and then it's been the latest in the raft of suspensions and all of that. And so how did the government get to this point? How did they arrive at, concluding that this project and this particular person is worth being suspended at the moment?
There are many committees set up to look into various issues in the state. We have the Transport Committee, we have the Mining Committee, and we have the Asset Verification and Liability Committee, headed by Dr. B.T. Salam. And this committee has come up with this discovery. And it's so sad, personally as an Ijesha man, that finances meant for the production of water or provision of water for the people of Ijesha land have been embezzled.
Are the finances embezzled? Do you have proof that they were embezzled, or you're just making an allegation?
By the time the committee comes up with the full reports, the people of Osun State will be surprised at the level of corruption of the last administration. We are just coming up with it a little bit, bit by bit. And that is the reason why the governor in his transparency said, yes, the people of Osun State must know this. The people of Ijesha must realize that this government only used that water project as a venue to divert their money to somewhere else. Just like, we rightly put it, if you look at all this money, billions of dollars that is involved, and you look at the project they said they have executed, there is no commensurable value to say, yes, this fund has been judiciously used. And what we are saying is that We are not there. The people of Ijesha land knows where this water project is. With the amount that we have thrown out to them that has gotten into the hands of these consultants and the level of job they have done, they will know, it doesn't require the wisdom of Solomon to know that what they have done is nothing but using that as a conduit pipe to embezzle Osun State Fund. And this is a loan that the state will have to pay back.
Well,
so it's quite unfortunate.
Well, so
very, very unfortunate.
I'd like to ask you, you made a statement earlier about the people of Ijesha land. Is the government saying that nothing at all has been done with that money, or some things have been done not up to expectation and then there's a need to review the project, or nothing has been done at all?
When you claim to have spent $41.9 billion, $41.9 million on a project, and when you get there, or on a building, and when you get there, the only feasible thing you can see on ground is just the foundation. Then you start asking yourself, many of us have built houses before. Many of us have been involved in projects before. If you look at the level of work they have done and justify it with the money they have claimed from the government, you don't need anybody to convince you that they have not done anything other than to fleece this money away to somewhere else. And what the governor is now saying is we have to ask questions. We want to know where this money are. We want to know what you have done with our $1 million that we have to pay back. So there's no two ways to it. And just like I said, it is feasible. It is what you can see with your eye. So we know what we are saying as a government. We will not just wake up in a day, set up a committee and say, okay, go and look this thing, and they come back and tell us that, the level of work they have done is not conventional with the money that the government has paid them. You are a journalist. You go there and do your own investigation. Then you will realize that the committee has done a good job by exposing them.
Well, when the project started, there was a level of, responsibility expected from the government and the consultant and, of course, the company handling that issue. Apart from bringing potable water to the people, do you have any idea if the corporate social responsibility of the companies in charge now were also carried out, in terms of employing the people of the host community, in terms of making life easy for them?
This is part of the problem we had with the last administration. They did not believe in the people of Osun State at all. And that was why we made it one of our cardinal points in our campaign, that the money for Osun State will be spent by the people of Osun State, and we are going to use the money to the benefit of the people of Osun State. They never believe in the people of Osun State. I can tell you categorically that what they believe in is bringing people from Lagos, because that is where they came from. That is where they have friends. That is where they have all these contractors. That is where they have the consultants. And that is where they operate from. So they don't believe in the people of Osun State. And it was part of the reason why there is absolute poverty in the state. Because if you employ ordinary carpenter to work for you somewhere else, by the time he gets his wages, of course, he's going to spend it by going to the market, spend it for the people, spend it on his family, use it to pay school fee. But in this case, when you bring people from Lagos to come and work in Osun State as consultant, as contractor, immediately they get their money. In fact, many of them don't even spend weekend in Osun State. What they do is work in Osun State from Monday to Friday, and by Friday, they go and save their money and spend their money in Lagos. So the question you are asking me, I can tell you categorically that they're not Ijesha consultants, not Ijesha engineer. Whereas when you are talking of people who are enlightened in Yoruba land, anywhere you get to, if you don't meet any Ijesha man, please don't stay there. We all believe in ourselves that as Ijesha man, when we are talking of the first engineer, first justice, first lawyer, they are all from Ijesha land. And when you now have a company working on Ijesha soil. But what they believe is bringing in consultants from Lagos, bringing in contractors from Lagos. There are a lot of hidden issues that, that they have operated. So the question you're asking me, I will still throw it back to you as a journalist. Go and do your investigation. There is no Ijesha engineer, there is no Ijesha man that works in that consult.
But Prince Odeyemi, would you have had issues with the constitution now, the constitution of the team, the consultant and the engineers, if they had done their jobs, as the government is claiming that they've not done anything, if they had given value for the money, if they had done what they were supposed to do, would you personally still have had issues with that?
Let me tell you this. This government never believed in indigenous citizens of Osun State, the last administration. And if they give instruction or contract to somebody that does not know anything about Osun State, about the people of Ijesha land, of course you cannot expect them to perform anything. And as a matter of fact, from what we have seen so far, it doesn't appear as if the government has a genuine interest in this Ilesha water project. All what they did was to use it as an avenue to take money away. That's the simple interpretation. Because if you are given a job and you are genuine about this water project, this is not what should happen. We know how government operates, especially a corrupt government. What they do is to look for a project, a gigantic one, through which they will now, give it to a contractor, and they know how to do the money among themselves. Just like the issues of all the gigantic building they built for secondary schools. The contractor came from Lagos, did a shoddy job. We know, and we are saying it, that he did a shoddy job because even the administration of Oyetola that took over from Aregbesola did a lot of review about this building, and they realized that there was no commensurate amount of job done on the building and the money they got from the government. So these are the things that has been going on between Aregbesola and Oyetola's administration. So their system is, yes, let us embark on a big project, because it's only through big projects that they can take enough money that will be enough for them to take to Lagos. And that is exactly what they did. So the issue of whether they have genuine intention or if they have done the job, we will not be talking. Of course, if they have done it, there wouldn't be any avenue for us to be speaking this morning. But what we are saying is they have done nothing other than to use that avenue to take the money that belongs to the people of Osun State to somewhere else. And we'll fish it out. We'll get it.
I'd like to read out
we are accountable to the people of Osun State.
Okay. I'd like to read out some of the figures that have been bandied around now, and I'd like you to speak to them. There's a $106 million loan for the project. Now, according to the statement released by Malam Rashid, out of that money, it was converted, and 10 billion naira has been spent, has been disbursed, and another $28 million has been spent. And now there were also some revenue that were allegedly gotten from the auctioning of various water pipes. Are there any records of these figures that your party has been claiming that since you came to power, there've been no records, there've been nothing for you to look at? How did you arrive at these figures? And are there any records of these monies being spent the way they should be?
Yeah, we are not magicians. We did not conjure all these figures. They are figures given to us by the Accountant General of the state, by the finance department of the state. All these ministries are being manned by permanent secretaries, and they have figures, they have records. Even though the last administration did not hand over to us, but we still call these permanent secretaries, the Accountant General, and everybody to brief us about the finances of the state, and it was from this we were able to get all this. So we did not conjure the figure. The Accountant General brought them out. The finance department brought them out. At least they should know the level of, the amount of loan we have to repay, and how much has been taken from that, and what is left in the state cover. And this is what we have told the people of Osun State in the spirit of accountability. So there were not figures that were manufactured. And at the end of the day, by the time we start asking questions from the last administration, we are going to see a lot of revelation will come out. We have the various agencies through which the truth will be known. The ICPC is there, the FCC is there, and they just have to work on this. So at the appropriate time, the people of Osun State will still know more about what the last administration did with their finances.
So will your party be towing that line? Will you be going down the route of the ICPC and EFCC anytime soon?
We are not ruling that out, because if a lot of money has gone without any trace, if a lot of money has gone on without a commensurable job on grant, we just must ask questions, and there's no way we can ask questions on our own, so that it will not appear as if we are vindictive or we are paying them back in their own coin. No, we will not do that. We are responsible to the people of Osun State, and we believe that government is continual. Whether we like it or not, if there are abandoned projects they did, if they are beneficial to the people of Osun State, we will continue. So there are agencies met for this. So at the appropriate time, we have to consult them. We have to appeal to them to help us get this money back, because it is the money that belongs to the people of Osun State, and we need this money to use it for them. That is one of their electoral promises, and we just must fulfill that.
So all of these loans now, all of these figures, were they part of the debt profile that was read out by Governor Adeleke some weeks ago? Or are these just recent revelations?
On daily basis, we are discovering a lot of things. This is a new one. It's not part of what Governor Adeleke presented to traditional rulers. You see, on daily basis, we are getting to know why they did not hand over to us. We are getting to know why they were so desperate to remain in government even after losing election. We are now realizing that they have a lot of things to cover. And that is the reason why, as a responsible government, we just must let the people of Osun know that this is the level of corruption that has taken place in the state.
All right, so before I let you go, Prince Odeyemi, the governor now has had some of these statements, some of these revelations, read out by his spokesperson, and some of these directives given, particularly when it comes to government assets and all of that. As the governor or anybody in the government considering some level of coercive powers that will be employed? There was some ultimatum given to people to return government vehicles, and now we have this Elisha water project. Would the government be exploring, apart from the EFCC and IPC now, some coercive powers?
At some level, if we have to use our police in Osun State, we will use them. At any level, when we have to involve the state security services, we will employ them. And at the higher level, if we have to employ the services of ICPC and EFCC, we will use that. All that we are concerned with is that whatever it is you have taken that does not belong to you constitutionally, whatever it is you have taken that belongs to the people of Osun State, you just must return them. And let me tell you this, they have started returning all these things. It's only that they are too ashamed to say it in the public or to admit that, yes, we do not have rights to take these things away. But now that there has been a subtle threat, they have been returning it. And we believe that before the expiration of that time given to them, we will recover everything. That is at the vehicle and the other materials level. But at the higher level, with the billions of dollars we are talking about,
millions of dollars and billions
of dollars, then we involve the highest authority, which is the EFCC and the ICPC.
All right, no, we'd like to leave it at that. Prince Odeyemi is the former National Deputy Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party and is currently a PDP chieftain and a close ally of the incumbent governor of Osun State, Senator Ademola Adeleke. We'd like to thank you very sincerely for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. and compliment of the season.
Oh, wish you the very same again. Well, we'll leave it at that in the first leg of the interview. When we return, we'll be speaking to the other party involved in this issue. Once again, we've been talking about the Ilesha water project, where the governor, Demola Adeleke, has just said that there's this $106 million water loan, and is saying that there is no commensurate value for the monies expended out of this particular amount so far. And there have been some directions, some directives yesterday, including the suspension of the consultant for that water project. We hope to speak with her when we return from this break.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Eva is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Bẹ́gùn bá jáde, mọ̀rìnwó la kọ́kọ́ rí, ọwọ́ gẹ́gẹ́ ní síwájú ìjó, ẹsẹ̀ katakata ní síwájú rìn, bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ń gbúrò wa, a tún ti dé náà nù, ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò Owambe Unlimited, pẹ̀lú èmi ọmọ yín, olólùfẹ́ yín, ọ̀rẹ́ yín, Suliat tẹ́túmọ̀ sí Mọ́rẹ́níkejì, ẹ lè pè mí ní Sùsù, tó bá wẹ̀ lómi, a sọ pé ìyálòdì àríyá, gbogbo orúkọ tẹ́ ẹ bá pè mí, kò sí èyí tí mi ò ní jẹ yín, ẹ farabalẹ̀, kẹ́ ẹ máa gbádùn ètò Owambe Unlimited lórí ìkànnì Western Spring Television ní ìkànnì 190. Ibẹ̀ ni Owambe Unlimited ń bọ̀ wá, ẹ fàkùrẹ̀ tẹ̀dí, kẹ́ ẹ máa gbádùn ètò àríyá wa.
Wọ́n sọ fún yín pé ẹ máa wo Owambe Unlimited lórí Western Spring Television.
According to the words of Michael Forbes, one who never asks questions either knows everything or nothing. Watch me as I ask the questions you think no one wants to answer. Even questions it appears no one has got the guts to ask. My name is Femi Adefila and I've got the gut. Let's ask the pertinent questions and watch as we get answers.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.
Ẹkùn ìwọ̀ oòrùn gúúsù Nàìjíríà ló kọ́kọ́ fún orílẹ̀-èdè yìí ní àtẹ̀móhùnmáwòrán ní oṣù kẹwàá ọdún 1959. Ipa aṣíwájú yìí la tọ̀ tá a fi gbé iléeṣẹ́ móhùnmáwòrán tuntun dìde ní ẹkùn ìwọ̀ oòrùn orílẹ̀-èdè yìí tí yóò dá àrà, ẹwà èdè àti ìgbélárugẹ àṣà wa padà sórí àtẹ̀móhùnmáwòrán yìí. Western Spring Television ó jáde bí ọmọ tuntun pẹ̀lú àwọn ètò tó nítumọ̀ tá a ṣe fún ìgbáyégbádùn yín. Ìròyìn òdodo náà.
All right, thank you for keeping faith with us on Morning Spring. on Western Spring Television. We've still been bringing you discussions centering around something that came out yesterday in the polity in Osun State. The Elisha Water Project is in the news. And we've spoken to chieftain of the People's Democratic Party. Now we're joined live on the show via Zoom by engineer Tao Williams, who is a consultant in charge of that Elisha Water Project. Good morning, Engineer Williams.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's get straight to business now. I would like to begin from some of the things that were said by the spokesperson of Governor Ademola Adeleke. I would like to start with, before going to the project itself now, you are set to be in possession of a car valued at 70 million naira. How do you respond to that?
I'm not aware that I have a bulletproof car. My car didn't cost 70 million naira. I have an ordinary Jeep. And that is what I use. That's the only car I'm using.
Was that a car given to you by the government as per your role?
Yes, that's given by the project to me.
Okay, so you're saying that figure and that statement is wrong? Is that what you're saying?
Very, very wrong. At the time the car was purchased, maybe it's about 45 million or something.
Oh, okay.
And it's a Jeep, and I need a Jeep to do the work.
Okay, so 45 million is where we should peg the figure at, not 70 million.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Now let's go to the project itself now. According to the statement released by the government, so far 10 billion naira has been spent on that project, and the government is saying that there's nothing to show for it. What is the state of the Elisha Water Project as we speak?
Now, the government that is saying that there is nothing to show for it, the first question I want to ask them is that have they gone to the site to see the volume of work done? Have they listened to us? I only attended a briefing by Access Committee, and they were asking me questions that are not related to the project. The report we gave to them on the project, they did not study it. They did not look at it. They have not gone to the site. I have not met the governor, and therefore I don't know who gave them, who told them that the 10 billion has no value. This job we have done, the Islamic Development Bank has come to Nigeria to inspect it. They credited us. The Federal Ministry of Water Resources, that as the custodian of the money, are working with us. They have come to inspect. The Accountant General of the Federation Department have come to inspect the job. The auditors in the Federal Ministry of Water Resources, they have come. Everybody have come to inspect the job, and they have given us credit for the value of work and the volume we have done. So I don't know where they got their information from. The people of Elisha are witness to the job. Our job cannot be done in secret. It is an open secret. All the market women, everybody, they were part of it. We were having stakeholders meeting. It was not a secret. So I don't know where they got their information from.
So can you give us an idea of the figures? Now, we would like to break it down into figures. The government has given it its own side of the story, saying that the total loan is $106 million. And so far, 10 billion naira and $28 million have been expended on that project. Can you give us a breakdown of the loans? Who did you get it from? How much did they amount to, and how much has been expended?
From the Islamic Development Bank, we got $65 million. From the federal government, we got $41.9 million grants. This was given in lieu of the fact that the state government could not provide their own counterpart funding. So the federal government gave us a grant of $41.9 million.
That will not be paid back? Is just a grant?
It's a grant.
So the state
because
is not...
the federal government took Elisha project as their legacy project.
So the government, state government, the Osun state government will not be paying back $41.9 million.
Yes, that $41.9 million was not given to us directly.
Okay.
It was dominated in the central bank and the Federal Ministry of Water Resources was put in charge of spending the money. So at the time the money went to the central bank, they told us that it was 12.8 billion naira.
All right, go ahead, ma'am.
So for the IDB $65 million, we have components for the project. The major component is the water treatment plant that is located in Kajola. Then we have 32 kilometers of various diameters of pipe from Kajola through the booster station to the 3 major tanks in Elisha. That is the second contract. The third contract is the construction of the 3 10,000 cubic meter capacity concrete tanks located upon the hills. And then we have the issue of the construction of the Water Corporation headquarters building, which is near the science school in Osogbo. Those are the major contracts for the IDB loan. Of course, we have the financial audit contract, and then we have the consultancy, design and review supervision contract. They are supposed to do the design review and do the construction supervision of the project. So far, out of the 32 kilometers of pipe we are supposed to lay, the transmission main, we have laid 34. Because in avoiding people's houses and going through the road, we have incurred additional 2 kilometers of pipe. And everything has been laid. The booster station has been completed. The only work that the contractor needs to do in this when they come in after the holiday is the electrical installation for the booster station. That one is totally 95% completed. Then the tank, all the 3 tanks are completed. We have been putting water into them to test run them. The only remaining thing to do with the tank is that we added additional sealed tank, because one of the tank, the hill was so low, there were other houses above the hill. So for them to be able to benefit from the water, we have to introduce a small sealed tank of about 25 meter height. That one is the only thing we need to construct, and that is because we are relocating the person whose house is adjacent to the site. The work was supposed to start in January. The institutional strengthening and capacity building of the Water Corporation has been completed by a consultant from Uganda. The headquarters building is about 50% completed. And the major problem we have with that contract is that the contract was awarded in Naira. And we had the problem of the COVID, the devaluation of the Naira, the inflation. And so the contractor is waiting on us to do something about inflation and increase in the cost of construction. That is why we are slow at that. The only major problem we have is the treatment plant. We found that the contractor, the treatment plant is supposed to be designed, construct, and operate. But for almost 2.5 years, the contractor could not give us a design. And there was a lot of problem between the contractor and the consultant.
Were there plans made to replace that particular consultant, seeing as he was defaulting at the moment?
No. What we did, the consultant had their own problem, which I will explain later. After having tried all we needed to do, we recommended to the bank, and the bank terminated the contract for the award. And we have put in place system and procedure to rebid for that contract and re-award the contract. But the contractor took us to court. But the court case is not delaying the rebidding and everything. But that is a question for another day. The consultants, they have their own different problems. The bidding, they were all international bidding. So everybody in the world who is a member of IDB contributory board, every country has the right to bid. So the consultant on the job was from Iran. And towards the end of their first contract, IDB could not send that, exactly to be exact. February last year, we made a payment for them. IDB could not pay the money. The money was going to Iran and it was coming back because of the issue they have with America. And they couldn't pay that money. So for a long time, in fact, up till a week ago, they couldn't pay the money. So we were advised not to renew the contract of the consultant because their contract expired. We were supposed to renew it. So we were advised not to renew their contract. But we picked another Nigerian consultant who has been working with them on the project, and we were set to go. All the other components of the IDB has been almost completed so far, except for the treatment plant. And the treatment plant, by procedure, is supposed to be 2 years. It's supposed to be a 2-year contract. So we were able to get an extension of time from the bank to the end of year 2024.
That's when that treatment plant will be ready.
Yes, if you commend the procedure this in January.
Okay, so before you continue, I'd just like you to, take a little bit back, some steps backward. Now, you've given us the figure of how much you've received, how much the loans and the grant, and how much has been spent and how much is left.
In the loan, we have spent $32 million. And we have $32,165,832 more to spend.
But let me speak to that figure now. From the statement that the government released yesterday, it says a total of $27 million has been expended from the IDB loan of $65 million, leaving a balance of the sum of $37.926 million.
I am giving you an updated figure.
Okay.
This figure I'm giving you is as of December. We have spent $32,834,167 million.
And you said you had a meeting with them. Did you present this updated figures to them?
I have sent it. Forward. I prepared this report I'm giving to you on the 26th of December, and I have sent it to the budget coordinator to present it to them. Okay.
So now let's look at another part of that statement, and it's the fact that you've been suspended, as it were, and the project coordinator with immediate effect. And so now there's the issue of the auctioning of the various water pipes across the state and the revenue which accrued therefrom. What pipes were auctioned?
The pipe across Elisha, not across the state. I am not in charge of the state. I'm in charge of the Elisha project. The pipe across Elisha, we have laid. In fact, the contractors have finished the work they have done. We have laid over 560 kilometers of pipe all around Elisha. Pressure tested. Even the house connection has been done. It is only for us to link to the houses when the water is available.
And so when was the water supposed to be available, ideally?
It is available in year 2024. That's what the treatment plant will bring the water.
All right. So about 2 years ago, 2020 or thereabout, you led a team to visit some of these water sites. That team comprised some members of the State House of Assembly. What changed?
Yes.
What has changed from 2020 and 2022? And in light of these allegations of no progress yet, how do you respond to that?
Well, I don't know how to respond to that because I kept asking them, what has changed? Between that time that they went and they credited us, the bank has come and they were amazed about the standards and the quality and the quantity of work we did. What has changed, I don't know. But there was some demand on us, and we cannot meet those demands.
What were those demands, and who made them to you?
Well, the house made they are making their own demands.
And what were the demands? What did they ask you to do? Because I remember clearly, because I was a member of that team at the time. I was on that team that went to some places in Elisha to inspect.
Thank you very much. That was the question I was asking them.
Yes, to inspect
what has
this
changed
project
between that time and now?
And then you know there were also promises made that day about some of the facilities. So what other demands were now made from you, you know, after that moment by the house?
Well, the house is asking for $5 million, and I said I don't have $5 million to give to anybody.
$5 million. So I'd like you to be very clear. The house asked you for $5 million to do what?
Yes, they asked me for $5 million. And I said, I don't have $5 million to give to nobody. Was
it for the water project or for something else differently? What was the money supposed to do?
For themselves, they're asking for takeaway grants. And they are saying that they will go to the press and say that the quality of work we have done is not good and this and that. And I told them, 1 year ago, you were on the site. You were commending us. Now you will go back to the press and say that we have not done well. What will be your reason? For the sake of our viewers and for clarity purpose, you are saying now that the House of Assembly demanded a $5 million bribe from you, otherwise they would blackmail you to the press and say that the quality of work done is wrong? Yes. Okay. Now I am saying it from all sense of responsibility. This was it, or did it come from the house as a whole or some individuals? Was the speaker involved? Can you name names? Not from the house on the whole. The chairman of the house committee on water supply and some of the committee, they called us. I was not alone. They called us to the meeting, and they were saying that we didn't give them money. And I said, I don't have money to give to them. The money I have is to do the job. Did you make this allegation known to the government of the day at the time? The government had just left. The new one just came in. No, we have not even met the new one. Oyetola was in power, I suppose, when that demand was made. Did you report to him? No, Oyetola has just left, as I said. Oyetola has just left. The new one just came in. Okay. And they called us to the House of Assembly. Here in fact, the letter they wrote to us, they are saying that we should come and meet the whole house. But when we got there, we didn't see the whole house. We met a few people with the chairman of the house committee. In fact, after I have told them that we don't have money, they called all the contractors to come and discuss with them. Do you have a date for this? When did it happen? Do you have a letter to that effect? What letter? What date was it? We have the letter, but it's not here with me. I'm in Lagos. Okay. We have a letter to that effect. All right. If you can avail us that letter, it will be very, very nice. But you've just said the chairman of the House Committee on Water Resources and Sanitation was part of those who asked you for that $5 million bribe. Yes. All right. So I really want us to move away from that. But
you are making allegations of blackmail now, that if you're not parting out with that money, you will be blackmailed, and say that the job you've done
yes, they
is
were
wrong.
boasting. They were boasting that they will go to the press. They will tell them that we have not done a good job. They were even boasting that they will go to site and disrupt what we have done.
Now, those are some strong allegations. Now, the persons who made this, were they on that team that followed you in 2020? Do you recognize them? Were they part of that team?
Yeah, they were part of the team. They were part of it. They were all part of it.
Okay.
They were all part of it.
All right, we'll move away from that. Now, the government of the day, the Adeleke government, is saying that some of the money they were diverted. Okay, they want to ensure that it was not diverted to private pockets. Do you have all the records and figures for the money you've received?
We have all the records. We are very transparent. We follow due process. Everything we did, we normally will advertise in 3 Nigerian newspapers that will cover both the North, the East, and the West, and then in international paper and the IDB newsletter we advertise. We do our opening of bids with a procurement department, members of the procurement department, the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Finance, and the PIU. We open the bid together with the consultants, and we set up committee that we do private evaluation. The consultants will do the evaluation on their own. We will do the evaluation on our own, and then we come back to the table. We bring everything together, we look at it, we clear all the gray areas, and once we are on the same page, we usually inform the government and then send our report to the Islamic Development Bank through the Federal Ministry of Finance. All right, so we have all our records.
Before we let you go, we still have quite a number of things to discuss, but let me just ask you on a lighter note, because I see that you're getting a little bit worked up. When will you be returning the vehicle in your possession? When will you be returning the 45 million naira vehicle that is now said to be 70 million naira?
As long as I am still on the project, I have not got a letter. All I have had is news from everywhere. When I get the letter to tell me that they are even talking of suspension, no, they are not talking that they remove me, because I believe they are still going to do a probe, and I will be cleared. And so I still have to do the project. So the car is not an issue for me. I have only one. I don't. It's not an issue.
Okay, so yes, now the state executive, that's the governor now, has found that large-scale corruption reflected in the. I'm reading out the statement now. Reflected in the handling of the loans and of the project. He said that action has denied people of Elisha an environment of drinkable water. Now I'm wondering. I'm sure our viewers are wondering. If you say you've met, if you've been invited and you've explained to them, what reason do you have? Can you put forward for them making this statement using the word denied the people of Elisha of what?
Actually, I have not met any committee except the Access Recovery Committee. That was the only one I attended, and I never knew that they were going to talk about our project, because our project is not yet an asset. So I went with another idea. So when we got there, they tried to make me comfortable and everything, and I did that. And they asked me about going on in the water corporation, and I said, I am using the water corporation as an office, but I am not in charge of the water corporation. I am in charge of the Elisha Water Project. And the next thing they said was that, how can you be a consultant and something is going on under your nose and you will say you don't know? It's not in my purview, it's not in my responsibility, and therefore I don't know what is going on. So all I know, if you ask about the project, I will tell you about the project. And that was when they said we will relieve you of your consultancy post. Well, that is not
you were told at that meeting that you'll be relieved?
Yeah, they told me, they said, we will relieve you of your consultancy. I said, it's not an issue. So.
And that was because you could not provide information that they needed? Because now there seem to be two things. You're talking about the water project, which you said is not yet an asset and is still ongoing. Is that why you could not provide the information they were seeking?
No, I did. I tried to do that when they were, although we didn't go like that, but we took one copy of our report to them. So when we found that they were talking about the project, I tried to explain to them. But the information they have had from outside did not allow them to listen to us. That is what I found out. They have had a lot of, for instance, they asked me, they said they had that we have $10 million in our hand. I said, that's an understatement. We have $32 million, but it's not with us. It's in Jeddah. They didn't give us money. They paid contractors directly. And I gave them the report. I said, this is my report. That report where they are putting all the money, I gave it to them. I said, I didn't know I am coming to defend the project. I thought it was an assets committee I was coming to. Anyway, this is the report that we have.
All right. So
I told them,
finish up. The
$10 million is not with us. The $10 million, we have more than that. We have 32 because the money of the treatment plant is still there.
So you gave the expenditure and balance of the IDB loan rather. What about the federal government grant? How much is remaining from the $41.94 million?
The $41.94 million came to $12.8 billion. Out of which we have spent 10 billion.
Okay. So you have a balance of 2 billion naira?
Pardon? So
you have a balance of 2 billion naira, haven't spent 10 billion?
Yes. That is 1.939.
Okay. So
my audited report, 1.939.
Okay. So you've tried to explain yourself a little, but I'd just like you to tell us again, what were some of those hindrances that have forestalled the delivery of the project as and when due?
Yes, thank you. You know, the issue of COVID was a 2-year affair. The issue of COVID came in. The issue of, for instance, the tank, we had to redesign the tank because of the nature of the soil. When we started excavating the hill, we found that we cannot put those tanks on the hill like that. We had to go down further than expected. And we had to build up the foundation from a very low level to be able to take the tank. So that took some time. The issue of COVID was there. Then, of course, the procedure itself, we have to go from us to the Federal Ministry of Finance, from Finance to IDB. So they all have their own challenges, both the IDB, the Finance, and everything. So everything accumulated into delay.
Okay, so before we let you go now, because of our time, I'd just like to ask you, I'll take you back a little bit now. Apart from the House of Assembly, has anyone else also approached you with some sort of blackmail or trying to ask you to part away with some money?
No. This government, I have not met the governor. I have only met the asset committee, and nobody has asked me for anything. I was surprised.
All right, we'd like to leave it at that this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Engineer Tara Williams is the consultant in charge of the Elisha Water Project. And just yesterday, the government of Osun State suspended her and a team and asked that she returns the vehicle in her possession and also, of course, provide details on the project itself. I would like to thank you for joining us on the program this morning, Engineer Williams.
Thank you very much.
Well, do have a nice day. Oh, that's the interview segment. You've heard some interesting revelations there on the program this morning. That's what we do for you here on Morning Spring. We bring you issues surrounding the polity and, of course, how some of these issues are being handled and how they are being said. We'll wait to see how this drama would unfold and how particularly the House of Assembly in Osun State will respond to some of the strong allegations made by Engineer Tower Williams. That's the interview segment of the program this morning. We'll take this break now, and when we come back, I'll be bringing you what's trending.
Èdè Yorùbá jẹ́ ọ̀kan lára àwọn èdè tí wọ́n ń sọ ní agbègbè Niger Congo. Èdè Yorùbá gbajúgbajà ní àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè tó ń bẹ ní ẹkùn ìwọ̀ oòrùn ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀. Ó kéré tán, àwọn ènìyàn bíi mílíọ̀nù 14 ló ń sọ èdè Yorùbá lónìí. Ètò akọ́mọlédè ló ń dé sójú ìwòran yín láti iléeṣẹ́ móhùnmáwòrán WSTV ìkànnì 102 channel 190 lórí Star Times. Folúṣọ́ aya Olúwagbémiga, ìyá ìjọ pèdèpèdè, ìyá akọ́mọlédè ló kọ tèmi. Yorùbá dùn púpọ̀, Yorùbá ò lè kú, Yorùbá ò lè parun. Tiwa làṣà, tiwa lèdè, tiwa nìṣẹ̀ṣe, akọ́mọlédè.
Atótó arére.
Kò ṣeé má gbọ́ ìròyìn.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West. And Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girls got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
All right, welcome back to this segment of the show, Spring Trends. We bring you who is trending, what is trending, why they are trending, and what people are saying about the who, the what, and why. My name is Emmanuel Ujadigele, reaching you live from Western Spring Television on channel 190 on Star Times DTT. And of course, you can follow the conversation on all our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, Western Spring Television, Twitter at WSTV_NG, and of course on YouTube, Western Spring Television. Remember to subscribe to our channel when you find us there. We'll start the program this morning and we will be staying in Lagos. Yesterday, I said some things about Lagos, about Lagos being the worst place to live in the traffic and all of that. And then a few persons were offended. And I like to say to those people that were offended that I am not sorry and this is just the beginning. The battle line has been drawn. Now we move on to more serious issues. Yesterday, the spokesperson of the police in Lagos State, SP Benjamin Hundeyi, was on a television program and he said that the killers of Gafar Brahma had been arrested. Now, I'll give you a backstory to that. Gafar Brahma was murdered by an officer of the Ajiwe police station along the Lekki-Ajah axis on the 7th of December. And if you recall properly, on the 25th of December, another innocent citizen, Kabolanle Rahim, was murdered by an officer from that same police station on that same axis. And now Benjamin Hundeyin went on air to say that the murderer of that boy, Gafar Brimo, has been detained and has been in detention. And that means that a lot of things will happen. There will be some in-house trial. There will be some sort of investigation into what led to the killing of the young man. Now, let's see how Nigerians have reacted to that statement by the police spokesperson that the killers of Gafar had been apprehended or detained. We'll begin with Bamidele Bio. Bamidele Bio says, I think, in quote, is a statement of irresponsibility, and many, if not all, the people in positions of authority use it. The next comment is from Bubu Kolawo. Bubu Kolawo says, what is saying is just arrant nonsense, claiming some victim parents request settlement instead of court case, thereby the culprit can walk scot-free. A family that lost their loved ones to extrajudicial killing deserves compensation, and the culprit must face the law irrespective. One aspect of that interview yesterday was SP Benjamin Hundeyin saying that the reason some of these cases of extrajudicial killings go away like that is because the families often settle, they go for settlement rather than seeing justice pursued. And the next comment is from Explorer, says, show us, let's see. When the Brazilian police shot a black man, the two officers involved were arrested and sentenced to death. They were shown to the public. But here, 95 of Nigeria police officers are all liars, including their so-called IG, lie political police criminals. Again, we must stress that these are comments of social media users and do not in any way represent the position of this media house before they start to trend #for me, free Ujiadugele. Now, next comment is from Albert Imologeme. It says, spokesperson, sir, please note, regular unannounced monthly drug tests for all policemen should be mandatory. They should also be subjected to breathalyzer test, at least bi-weekly, for those bearing arms. Failing any of the tests again after first warning should lead to immediate dismissal. The next comment is also from someone else. Alcatraz says, what about his accomplices that run away? I've been paying attention. No one is talking about the other cops that run away. He's not the only cop under that bridge. Next page, interestingly, is the next comment. Says, part of the settlement deal includes MPF paying a heavy fine to the victim's family and the police officer being fired. There are no options that leaves the officer with his job. Such elements must not remain in NPF, and that will send a message to other trigger-happy hotheads. And Dakpo Kodri says, Nigerians are interested in justice, not purported detention. And Mike the Dynamite says, we don't trust, neither do we believe you. Oga Tuburu Igodaro comes next with his own contribution, says, who is paying? My hard-earned tax that I'm paying is being used to settle for a murderer. Una head needs new screwdriver, because this explanation is daft. Some very strong words there. Proudly Alfiz says, lies. Let's see pictures of this man in custody. Not all this news they are telling to the public, all lies. Police force is filled with lies. Now, those are the comments that we have for you on the issue of Brimo Gafaro's killers being detained by the police. Now, interestingly, still in Lagos, Bolanle Rahim, a pregnant lawyer who was returning from the church with her husband on Christmas Day, was shot and killed by a police officer in the same police station where the officer who killed Gafar Brimo hailed from. Now, a few days after that incident, there was a story as reported by the Punch newspaper that the Lagos Council has named a street after the slain lawyer. That's in Etiosa local government. There was a street that was now renamed after Bolanle Rahim. Now, that is something that has made the news, and people have been describing it as government hypocrisy and hypocrisy of the police force. Why would someone be shot dead by your police officers, and the next thing you've done is you're naming a street in the area after the 41-year-old lawyer? Now, let's see how Nigerians have reacted to that. We'll begin with Raymond. Raymond says, Jesus Christ, what has that got to do with justice? Dismiss the culprit from police force, give him some good years behind bars, and give his 33 years gratuity to this woman's family. Let's start with that. Who cares if a street is named after Otokoto? That's that comment singular says, so each time the family drive in or anytime they mention the street to anyone, it's a sad remembrance. This is too sudden. This should have come last. Justice should come first. Next comment is from Jasper Annette Louis. He says, will this bring her back? If that be the case, then in no time, almost every street will be named after victims of police brutalities. Sanitize the Nigeria police force now. Next comment, Ifeoluwa Adroja says, gradually cases going under the carpet. It would end in compensating the family. And Itoku Nitiegbe. May God protect us from avoidable and unforeseen circumstances. May our lives not end by sons and daughters of Satan. Next comment is from Peter Obi and Dati Baba Ahmed. Pascal Wanfo says, how will this help the family? Very good question. How will this quench the bleeding souls of the husband and children and loved ones? How will this benefit the common masses that fall victims of this police brutality and incessant killings? Can you tackle the root cause head on and stop this drama? Next comment, Femi Fajulu says, overhaul the Nigerian police force. That would be the greatest honor you can do for her and her family. Make sure that no one has to die through this stupid and senseless means ever again. That cop was probably collecting bribes that his boss would share part of it. Chris says the killer cop is a murderer. Treat him as such. Anything less is authorization for some of these hoodlums in uniforms to continue to kill Nigerians. Simple. Again, we'll go back to Jasper Annette. The next comment says, would this bring her back? If that be the case, then in no time, almost every street will be named after victims of police brutality. Eshan Nkot says, the people on this council are very, she said some strong words. Said, what rubbish is this? Like who agreed this was the right thing to do? What was the purpose? And then she hissed there. And then we have this comment from RCO, which is the last comment, says, what a family deserves is justice, not this performative nonsense. And we do agree, I agree personally, that what the families of victims of police brutality deserve is justice. They do not want streets to be named after them. They do not want your money. They do not want any sort of honor from you. What they want is that you keep their lives and properties safe. What they want is that you keep trigger-happy police officers off the street. What they want is that you overhaul the police force. What they want is that you carry out psychiatric and drug and alcohol tests for police officers every now and then. What they have is that you sanitize the recruitment process so that you don't have police officers who are battling mental and psychological issues wielding rifles on the street. What they're asking is that you improve the welfare of police officers so they don't transfer aggression on innocent citizens. The killings have to stop. The brutality has to stop. You cannot continue taking lives of innocent people who have done nothing wrong to you. Extrajudicial killing is not human. It is anti-human, and it must stop. And concerned authorities, the government, the police force, and every other person involved in this mess should clean it up and ensure that people don't just start dying off the street. My name is Emmanuel Ojadigele, asking you to end police brutality, asking you to stop the killings, and asking you to allow people live their lives without fear of being killed by those who are meant to protect them. We cannot have the worst of us guiding us. Have a lovely week.
Arrested.